Hi Emma,
Hi.
how are you?
Good, thank you. How you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. I'm enjoying the chill of the morning air, not too stiflingly hot like it has been the past few days.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereabouts are you today?
I am at home. I am in Northeast London.
Ah,
Um, so just Stamford Hill. It's
yeah,
kind of,
I
yeah.
know the one, yeah. Oh, nice. Well, I thought it would be really good to chat with you just about the everyday essentials that I've been kind of wanting to build upon about in reflection of both my brand and also your brand. And I thought it'd be really good to connect with you and Socko Shop. And I guess what is an everyday essential to you? What would you say that would come under?
An everyday essential, a
Yeah,
compulsory wardrobe piece. Well, I think really it comes down to the basics. So I've just been writing a book on how to quit fast fashion, and the first chapter is about reevaluating your wardrobe and reassessing what you have,
oh,
um, because it's not so much about kind of getting rid of everything and starting again. It's more about just using what you have in a more selective way.
mm,
So the basics for me are your everyday essential, and that's everything from a plain cotton t-shirt through to a pair of jeans, white shirt like your beautiful ones behind you, and a comfy but flattering sweatshirt, just things that you can work in multiple ways and with many other things that you own.
mm.
Um, so that for me is what an everyday essential would be.
An everyday essential, which I guess it's just that one you can always fall back on, and that garment piece, whether you wear it when you are going to work or at the weekend or just want to, I guess, relax. Like at the moment, everybody's looking for a lot of jersey, really. So I hear where they want to just put their feet up or they're just at home. So I can imagine when it comes to the sock side of things, they must be selling like hotcakes. Everybody wants to have just, a comfy pair of socks that's going to be something that would last and they can just walk around easily in and that they don't wear at the sole. Have you seen
Yeah.
that kind of go up in popularity or any kind of inquiries?
So it's funny actually because socks tend to be quite a seasonal item, and especially the ones my collection at the moment is a merino wool collection, which is great in that it's super soft, and like you say, durable, but cozy.
Yeah.
So it's weird because we're in that sort of transition period of kind of
Mm.
socks and sandals before people just kind of move to full on barefoot. So I'm kind of expecting things to quieten down. But like you say, with lockdown, it's been great in terms of people's kind of receptiveness
Yeah.
to to the product and to the ethos, and to kind of almost having those smaller items to treat yourself with when things are a bit miserable in other
Yeah.
areas.
I think you've got hit the nail on the head there. It's like those small items that you do want to treat yourself to. And I guess it's something where you don't feel like it's really going to make a dent in your bank balance, but you know that it's something that it's not a Primark number. It's a product that's actually just going to be something that you can wear each and every day. And I don't know about you, but I'm an avid fan of socks. I love socks so much. That my sock drawer is full of coloured or prints or anything, and I just think they are such a product that are they should need to be shown off. It's like you roll up your trousers if you're wearing a pair of jeans, and you need to flash off those socks because I think they portray such character about you.
Definitely, it's a chance to, I think, your wardrobes, and like you're saying, with choice of color, it can be, you want to keep things that are going to be seasonless in the sense of not being specifically spring summer, but then things like socks can be a great way of jazzing something up and giving a little hint of your personality beyond your everyday essentials.
And I think
It's
that kind of comes into like one of my other topics here in regards to the benefit of owning an essential. I think you have that essential, it's a timeless piece, it doesn't have a season imprinted in it. So you can actually use that piece and adjust it to your lifestyle, your style preference, how you like to wear things.
Yeah.
Have you, I guess it must be so rewarding when you see people and they send selfies of how they wear your socks or what they've combined them with.
Absolutely. Or in the days of doing market stalls in real life where people wander past and then they kind of lift up a leg and show off you know, a pair from one of my first collections, which is, yeah, it's really flattering, because sometimes they kind of go off into the ether and you don't really know what's become of them, whether they were gifted, and then to see them again, it's always really flattering, for sure.
Do you see like returning customers coming back because they've got a taste for things, they like your style, and they come back for more?
Yeah, so there's one customer I can just think of who's just placed an order, actually, that's why she's front of mind, but it feels like I've taken over her sock drawer. I can't imagine that she's got a lot of other socks in there now, because there's definitely enough to see her through a good week or two. But it's great to have loyal customers as well.
Do you think, like in the current times that we're in now, do you think it's, because I've read a lot online, just a case of how I think like the even designers, they're starting to slow down on the number of collections that they launch every year. Do you think it has come about time now, or it's starting to, where the everyday pieces are actually sought for? People actually have that intention to find a garment or a product or a socks that they can wear time and time again.
Totally, absolutely. I mean, I think I'm slightly torn in terms of the reality of the fact that, yes, a lot of people are waking up to the impact of fast fashion that it's having on both the people who work within the supply chain, but also our planet, and are making more conscious decisions when it comes to their purchase behaviour. However, I do still feel that sustainable fashion, as it stands, is still quite elitist, and my aim eventually is to have a product that can, you don't even need to question whether you're wearing an ethical pair of socks. It'll just be as standard. That's a kind of, it's a long-term goal. It's not something that we're going to arrive at tomorrow, but just by having these brands who, yes, they may be slightly elitist in terms of the way that they are pricing, but that's usually because there's a very good reason for it, and they're bypassing the traditional manufacturing lines of I guess something that we can really touch on is that it's very hard to know, even if you're a brand, it's very hard to trace something right back to its source. And I think that the more that brands can do that and make a conscious effort to do that, the more that will filter through. We can learn so much from the past and the way that things used to be done, like with the darning that we do with Socko and extending the active life in that way. So yeah, I think that longevity factor is something that that people are looking for more nowadays than they were, say, 10 years ago. Yeah, how about you? What do you think, Siobhan? How's it?
I think like you say, where we are right now, I think when it comes to the word sustainability, I think a lot of people are tagging on to that. They might kind of in so many ways like tick a few boxes in regards to what they're sustainable. So they might be looking at the cotton that they use. It might be a fair trade cotton. But I think when it comes to every single part of their production, it's so difficult. I mean, obviously the fast fashion chains now, they're trying to slow down, or they're trying to kind of make little areas in which they are saying, right, we're doing all fair trade bits and pieces, or we're making sure that our factories are locally produced. So they might do a small collection from Portugal, for instance, as opposed to, say, that usual one of India. I think that the everyday everyday pieces are, I think they're coming to a point now where everyone is seeking them. I think this is an opportunity for them to learn a bit about the brand as well, and learn what they're buying, and learn what that piece is all about, what the story is behind that piece, and why it should be considered something that offers promising opportunity and a lifetime potential for them. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't want to not intimidate, that's not the right word. I don't want to overpower them with so much information about, oh, this fabric, so for instance, our knitwear, it came from a farm in Australia, then it was darned in Scotland, and then it was totally seam-free, put together up in Scotland, only produced across a limited number of units. I don't want that to be an overpower thing. I want it to be something where they take an interest in the product, they like the product, and then it might be an opportunity for them to delve just a little bit deeper, bit by bit by bit. And it will be seen as something where it's quite a learning curve for them, to actually understand that, oh wow, I get the idea. I love that story behind it and value it from there on. So in a nutshell, that was quite a waffle, but you kind of...
No, not at all. No, it makes sense in that I think, you know, people do come to things because they like the design, and then to have that almost justification of, well, it's also not just kind of, it's got that unique aspect, that unique quality of limited runs, like you're saying, of the products that you make, and I think that actually is massively appealing, and that storytelling is something that means a lot to people at the moment, and getting back to understanding the origin of things.
And just moving on to like one of the other points that I was thinking about recently is portraying the character in both your brand and your product. I guess, like, for you, one of the things that really stands out to me is that you offer the free mending kit with every purchase. And that's just, and see, that's something I guess you wouldn't get that with a larger company like that, who would be selling, like Urban Outfitters used to love their socks, but you know, that would be something that's made in Turkey on the fast track turnaround, and you don't have anything, you don't have a personality to that product. So when did you come to how did you come to the idea to offer the mending kit?
So that's a really good question, and I think it was an insight that came about through getting in touch with WRAP, who are the waste and recycling.
Yes, I know. I've spoken to one of them before. One of the ladies in there at the very beginning. It's amazing, so isn't it?
Yeah, so they've got such a wealth of research, and they are just really informed. So I was saying I'd already landed on the idea of socks, but I was saying I want to make them as sustainable as possible. And the insight that we landed on was that it's not about the fibers that go into it, it's actually about the longevity of the product. So it got me thinking about how can I make a long-lasting product, and to extend the active life of clothing. One of the key things that one of the key skills that has sort of died out over the last couple of generations is darning, whereas it used to be something that everyone you wouldn't second. You wouldn't think about it. You'd pick up a needle and thread and you'd mend your clothing, and it's something that has been lost along the way. I think as well, my background's quite craft orientated, so being able to bring an element of that in and to have that as a point of difference to other sock brands was a benefit to me as well. So yeah, it works in a couple of ways, in that the mending kit, yes, if it gets to that point, you can repair your Socko socks or any other socks, but also it's promoting that message, and it's saying, you know, we care enough about our products that we want to make them last, and you know, the most sustainable socks are the ones that you already own. So if you can learn this life skill, then you're going to be set to have a much more sustainable wardrobe than the people who buy things and throw them out as soon as they get them.
Yeah, and I think I think that's so well put together. It's such a good idea to actually bring that, to actually have that, and then it encourages them to tune in even more. As a case of like darning, okay, whether they YouTube it or they can actually access this easily via you, because I've like reading on your website and you've got the whole tip side of things, and you take part in darning workshops as well, I understand.
Yeah, so I teach darning workshops, and I think there is quite a revival around, especially visible mending, the idea of actually celebrating the journey that item has been on. It's again, it's this question of privilege, but it's not a necessity anymore. You know, there's nothing to, it requires time, it requires patience. It's so much easier to buy a pack of 5 and throw them out as soon as they get a bit worn, but it is for people who are conscious and concerned about the impact that their clothing choices are having on the planet. And so yeah, it's a great message to be getting out there, and a great, so it just sort of goes hand in glove, hand in sock with socks as a product, to have darning associated with it. So
yeah, I'm not sure if you've been to there's, I can't remember the exact name of it now, but when I went down to Bath earlier this year, we went to my husband took me there primarily for, I think it was like a fashion museum. I think, yeah, it's like a fashion, I had to look it up, in the fashion museum, and it's amazing because you go through from like the you go through from like the 1600s up to the 1800s, but it was the 1900s that intrigued me, from when we were going through the kind of war period, and they were talking about, they used to have darning workshops back then, years ago, and they were to encourage, because women wanted to obviously have like their garments, they had their restrictions on what they were allowed to purchase, and so what they had to make use of. So they used to actually have darning workshops on all of their garments, or they would actually have, I think there was like sewing classes as well, because they used to, because I think there was like, it's not a tariff, I can't think of the word of it now, but there was like restrictions on how many clothes you could own. So because there weren't any restrictions on the kind of curtain fabrics you could get, they would buy curtain fabrics and make garments out of those curtain fabrics, because there was no restrictions whatsoever. So a lot of women were obviously kind of like opening up and hearing about this, so they were very keen to get in onto these workshop classes, to actually take part, to actually, you know, I think for one, get together, and another to learn a new skill that would benefit them. And I think that in itself, that's coming back so much now, isn't it? So many people I'm seeing a lot of darning workshops online. I think people are actually seeing it as quite an art now. The kind of the techniques that you can have, or even just like dressmaking bits and knitting. I'm seeing everyone knitting recently on the trains in itself, or in coffee shops and things like that. I think it's so cool that, you know, we actually want to learn these things ourselves, and in reflection to use for our own benefits.
Definitely. So how did you come to the craft side of things, the making side of things? How did you start as a seamstress, or how did it
well, I've always worked within fashion, but it was more like the fast fashion chains. And I was always encouraged. Well, my nan always used to, like, being someone from a child of the 30s, she would always, and one of 13 children, they would always have hand-me-down clothes. So they had to learn from a young age, like from their mother, like how to adjust those clothes to fit them. So maybe it was too big because passed down from the sister. And they would have to kind of cut it and amend it to their own size. So I always used to sit and watch her on the sewing machine, or doing her stitching on like products, things that needed turning around. Like I had my communion dress made by her, and I remember sitting watching her like stitching all the little rosettes onto it, and it was just, I just found it so enchanting how she would go to that much effort for that piece. And I think that was always something that was in the back of my mind. Whilst I loved working in fashion, I just didn't see too much of the creativity. It was always, well, it was the design. We'd see the fabrics, and then we'd see the fit of the garment when we'd attend the fit sessions. But then we'd see the product on the shop floor. So we wouldn't see anything in between. There wasn't anything like the workmanship that went into it, even if it was kind of like, even just like the technique of sewing the buttons on. Nothing like that was ever known about. And we didn't know about these things. So I wanted to, I attended a few sewing workshops, and I made quite a few mistakes, but it was just really, really good. It was really engaging, and I've got my sewing machine, and I'm no professional, but when I started, I think it was from my nan's encouragement, through having a child, through having the limitation to how much time I could take on my wardrobe, how much I wanted a product that would be durable enough for me to wear whilst looking after my son, and also being able to go out and still feel good about it, and it would withstand all of the roughness that, you know, a parent with a baby would have. So I kind of, just took that on and kind of just built it on from there, really. And I wanted a piece that would last, and I liaised with one of my pattern cutters that I used to work with, and together we kind of created a small collection. And she's the person who created the patterns and the toiles, and then she took them to the factory, really. And I mean, I'm no professional on the machines, on the sewing machines, not like yourself, but I do like to know like the hands-on techniques of how to sew a garment. So that was, I just think it's just such something to really portray and build upon and reflect upon in your creations.
Definitely. And I think so much of it comes down to how you style it as well. And even just looking behind you, I love your setup. It looks absolutely fab.
I think that kind of thing, do you think it brings some quality or value to a piece, to actually offer that, the fact that it is an everyday essential, the fact that it has that longevity promise? Do you think that that offers the value to the customer?
Yeah, I think it's a big question, in that I think a brand is more than the sum of its products. So building a brand is different to putting products out there, as you know, and it's kind of that space in between of what a customer perceives your brand to be, based, of course, in part down to your products, but more and more, like we were saying earlier, about the kind of storytelling of who made it, what it's made from, and seeing that kind of transparency and whether or not it's genuine. So if that's at its core, then I think that, it can definitely add value. Whereas if it's a sort of add-on, then it's maybe not gonna resonate in quite the same way. Not to say that it's a bad thing. I think any move towards a more sustainable practice within fashion is a good thing. But I think it's something that kind of needs to be as genuine as possible, because customers are savvy and they will see through it, and you'll get pulled apart on it, which is fair enough. But you know, I'm not going to name and shame, but there are fast fashion labels who are doing things more consciously, shall we say, supposedly, but actually, aren't they just producing more stuff whilst also kind of it feels like greenwashing to me.
It just feels like it's like
make up for what they're doing in the rest of their business.
And it's like they're trying to say, okay, we fit the bill there too, so don't worry, rest assured, we're going to honour that category, but we'll just carry on as we were. But we're still kind of in the background, we're still dealing with that little topic. I know. And then I was just having a quick browse on your website the other day because I was just intrigued with what your brand story is about and how you started and what's involved and bits and pieces like that. And it's amazing. I love the fact that you've got the names of all of, like, you've got your seamstress on there and you've got the people that you deal with up in your factory. But I have to ask, what is a wood turner?
So it's kind of in some ways it does what it says on the tin. It's someone who takes wood, puts it on a lathe, which is a kind of spinning machine, and then they use tools to shape that wood. So if you think of like a classic turned wooden item would be like a banister in a stair, all the little spindles that go down. That's often turned less and less by hand, but that is the same. It's the same principle. So the wood turner, Liz, who I have built a relationship with, she makes wooden eggs for me. So little solid wooden eggs out of offcuts of beechwood, and then these wooden eggs are used as a support in darning. So it's a darning tool. Yeah, we're not wood turning socks. That would be madness.
I can't quite picture where that fits in, but
Yeah,
of course, it's also for the darning side of things as well.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm that I only have darning eggs in terms of the tools that I'm offering at the moment, but I would love to kind of explore the haberdashery side of it a little more as well, because there's so much out there, and I love a gadget. So
yeah.
I've got a design for a slightly more, instead of the solid wooden egg, I've got something that would hold a needle and thread, but as yet I've not found a way of making them at a price that would be feasible. So, and again, as with everything, it's knowing the origin of everything, taking it back to its source, and making sure that I know the people that I'm working with. So it's not a case of sending off to China for 20,000 and getting them back in 6 to 8 weeks. It's a lot more considered, and so it takes time to find those workarounds, as I'm sure you found when sourcing your manufacturers as well. But once you have that in place, it's really invaluable, those relationships that you build.
And it's nice to know that you have a certain profession across each segment of your production line. So you have someone who is your seamstress, you have someone, for me, like my pattern cutter, I have someone who sews the labels onto the back necks of the garments, or the care labels. You have those people who are professionals at those jobs, and rather than just like Tom, Dick and Harry, who just happen to be like, they're available at that time, so yeah, they can darn your bits and pieces. They have that profession, and they have that finish to them, their own individual way of working on that. What's the word? Their professionalism. They have their own way of finishing a product, or like putting their own identity into that profession that they do, and it's amazing to be able to have that connection. And speaking of which, your book that you've recently launched, I guess you're trying to build upon the faith in the slow aspect of our lifestyles and our wardrobes, really.
Definitely. So it's I've written a book called How to Quit Fast Fashion, and it's 100 hopefully very accessible points of ways that you can have a more sustainable wardrobe. So like I say, it starts with kind of paring down what you have and really assessing that, but then goes on to look at the ways in which we wear and can care for our clothes, and ways that we can shop more consciously as well. So I'm excited to get that out there in the autumn.
Oh, that's really exciting. Whenabouts in the autumn? Have you got a precise?
October. I don't have an exact date, but October.
But you'll be keeping us tuned anyway, no doubt, won't you?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Good. Exciting, and can't wait. Okay. Cool. I think that's about it, really. We'll be catching up again soon anyway, to chat about durability and the timelessness. So yeah, cool. Oh, thank
Well,
you
thanks
so
for
much,
having me
Emma.
along, Siobhan. It's been lovely to chat to you and kind of,
Yeah,
yeah, learn more about h.huna
yeah,
and get to know
definitely.
you,
Likewise.
the face behind the brand.
Yeah, I know. That's what I think so amazing, to actually to be able to relate to the person behind the brand and put the two and two together, which, yeah, hopefully these times are actually enabling us to do.
For sure, for sure. It gives us a chance to step back and slow down, whether we want to.
Okay. Oh, well, lovely. Thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care, everyone,
Take
and
care. Bye
we'll
bye.
speak soon. Bye.